All right, I just started the recording. Yeah.
Okay, so let's go ahead and call to order. Shall we stand up and do the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance
To the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'll start the roll call. Nancy Smith here.
Vince Pagetto here.
Steve Keller here.
Bruce Blatt here.
Have a forum. Okay, any public comments? With no public comments, I'm going to move on to the approval of the minutes for last month. I'm assuming everyone's had a chance to read them. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes? Or is there any comment?
I move we approve the minutes from the November 30th meeting. Steve Keller.
We have a comment, I'm sorry.
Just, did we correct the
That was-
mention of the paint?
That's from September.
Oh, okay, I thought it was redone.
Okay,
So I'll second the motion to approve.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And I believe, who's doing the financial report today? Take a look. Oh, no internet. Sorry, now I have my technical issues. Grab internet real quick.
I've got it pulled up here.
Please, thank you.
So, the financial report that was provided in your packet. You have roughly $1,011,000. You have 89.1% remaining of your budget for the fiscal year. It looks like you still got contractual landscape maintenance. I'll just run line item by line item since there's like 7 of them. Contractual landscape maintenance, that is the Ameriscape contract. Year to date is 90,000. Remaining is 476,000. So you've got 84%. R&M other landscape, your budget's 80,000. You've only spent about 2,400. So you got 97% remaining. Your plant replacement program, you have 100% of your budget remaining at $103,000. Annual tree trimming, you have 154,000 and you have 100% remaining. Your tree sod replacement, you have 32,000 and you have 100% remaining. Shared entry feature, there's $16,000 budgeted and you've only spent $225. Your irrigation repairs and maintenance, you've got 19,000 budgeted. You've only spent about 2,300, so you've got 87.5% remaining. Holiday lighting, you've got $25,000 budgeted. Again, this is only through November, so the expenses for the holiday lighting, the full expenses probably haven't hit. But you have about half of the budget remaining, which will probably hit in your next finance report. And then your GIS web portal maintenance, you've got $15,000 budgeted and you've only spent about 3,600. I know Passarella has been going to work with some of the landscape maps and things like that, and easements and updating and such. So that's it for the financial report.
Any question?
If I could add, I don't know if directly brought up about sod. So I had brought up to Javier's attention that there was some spots that were in dire need, particularly where his trucks did the damage, which I witnessed firsthand, which he denied. I said, I can tell you the license plate numbers and everything. So he's telling me until he could find sod, he won't make any replacements.
So I would encourage if there are issues with a contractor like that, where it's a he said, she said, number one, a picture is worth 1,000
Well,
words.
he's agreed. He, that's not the issue. What I was bringing up, and I don't know if it's in the right vein, but he's saying he can't find the sod.
He has been having trouble finding sod.
You know that for a fact?
I know that
Okay.
for a fact because
Okay.
we're dealing it within all
You
these sub neighborhoods.
It wasn't a major piece. I mean, it was probably 10 by 10, but his trucks were doing some trimming
Yeah.
and they just were accelerating up and down Cypress and just kept digging them up.
Yep.
It was after a rain, the whole thing, so.
So my one comment for that, is if like an issue with the contractor directly and there's an accountability component part of it, please just keep either Daniel or Scott in the loop. That way, I know it won't fall off of your radar, but from a
I didn't realize it had to be.
standpoint,
Okay.
We have that scheduled yet with Javier, do we know? Because we're getting complaints from a lot of the tall or trucks coming through there. It's just tearing up. The oak trees on Pelican in particular are just really destroying the vehicles.
That I don't know about Pelican. I mean, I can tell you about my neighborhood, but I don't know specifically about Pelican. So that's something I think we're gonna have to ask Mark when he gets back.
When he when the schedule for tree trimming. Because
Okay.
oaks are every other year.
And if it's okay, since Mark is out of town, I mean, I'm in contact with Javier all the time. I can ask him.
Okay.
Okay.
that'd be good, just so we know when it's scheduled and if I have to send an e-blast out to the community, because they'll be.
is the tree trimming, do we know if the tree trimming is in the contract itself? Do you all know that?
I think he subcontracts it out, but I'll have to check and see if
Oh,
it.
I think it is. I just don't know the
Are
frequency.
you talking about the oaks? I mean, the hardwoods?
The actual hardwood tree
It's
trimming.
due this year,
Okay.
it
'cause
because he
that-
didn't trim them last year.
I asked because Scott has just solicited quotes for the district for all of our hardwoods over there. So we've got current pricing. If it's an out of contract item, I mean, we can share the quotes and we have a per tree cost. And if it's less than 154,000,
Right.
something to consider.
Yeah, in context, like you have them come in and give an estimate, if you don't already have somebody set up.
But I think.
I think Javier subcontracts with someone, because they already did all of those Alexander palms at the.
Decorations, I know.
Yeah, he did all the palms, but they haven't done the hardwoods, and the hardwoods are due to be done this year or 2024.
I would say, if there are safety concerns where vehicles are hitting,
Okay.
that I believe is part of the contract, but they have to keep that clear.
Okay,
But the actual, overarching trimming, that would be a whole,
trim sales.
yeah.
And I know they're gonna have a crew in one of the communities in January to do exactly that.
I think Javier told me for some of my stuff around Cameron in January. February.
Okay.
So he's probably got it in his mind for the schedule.
And I believe I have a hard copy of the contract for the GSCDD with Ameriscape. I can look later today and see if I can find it. Whether or not that's included in the contract, and I can shoot Georgia a note.
Okay.
All
I might
right.
be able to get it well.
We have the contract.
Okay.
If you don't have it, we can share it with the group. If you don't have that already.
Okay. I'll let you know. I'm pretty sure I do though.
They do that annually from the hurdles.
Hardwoods are every other year.
It's interesting.
Palms are every year and coconuts are twice a year. And then hardwoods are every other year. That's typical for
I'm
Florida.
just thinking of streetlight replacement. That one.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fancy. I'm gonna check the contract though, because based on the conversation I had with Bob, and I asked him about it actually about a month ago. He said he loves the canopies and there's no way you're cutting the hardwood. So, I think he was just kidding. me.
Yeah, okay.
So, okay. All right, so I think we're looking for a second on the financials.
Steve,
Okay.
I second the motion.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. All right, the next item on the agenda is the reelection schedule. I know Georgia submitted this. I didn't know if anybody wanted to speak to this, but based on what I read, it looks like we have one person that is either reapplying or we need is gonna expire. Actually, we got one, two, no, just up for reelection, 25, 25, 25, 25.
Nobody.
Nobody. So I think we're fine. So I'm not really sure what the discussion item is.
So what this stemmed from realizing that, the board has quote unquote term limits. They can reapply just like all of you. But we realized that we didn't take into account the dates when all of these subcommittees were formalized. And so we wanted to make sure that we got the schedules out for all of the subcommittees. You realize when your term is up, you can reapply. It's just a matter of going through the process and then being vetted by PPAC, by the committee, by PPAC, and approved. But we just, again, put timelines on everything, so.
What is the new reelection date versus up for reelection? Because there's some are
So-
24 and some are 25.
So this committee, everybody was pretty much approved at the same time. But we don't want a full sweep of a whole new committee at the same time. So we asked Mark to help us stagger the schedules. And so that's the new reelection date is the staggered schedules, because we don't want a whole new committee. We'd lose,
So 3 at a time, say.
yeah,
So we do have 3 people coming up then in 2024 in February?
yeah. So you would just have to reapply.
Okay. So that's Cindy, Steve, and Mark. Okay. Time's fleeting.
It would be, yeah.
Right?
Day of the real- So it's just, you fill out the form and resubmit it.
So that would be on P-PAC's January agenda,
Correct.
so it has to be before they
Yeah,
expire.
so we'd like to get everyone, it looks like Steve, Mark, and
Cindy.
Cindy.
And-
Just to resubmit their applications.
Is it possible, it's Nancy, is it possible, I'm not concerned about Mark or Steve, but since Cindy's not here today, is it possible that somebody from, or Georgia can shoot her off a note?
Yeah.
In case she doesn't read the minutes?
Yep, we can do that.
Okay. Good, thank you. Okay. Back to where I was. Okay, the next item up for discussion is the monument and cul-de-sac landscaping policy. I went ahead and made some changes to that policy based on Mark's re-review of the policy and his suggestions. So really all I'm asking for today is that we approve the new policy. Have all of you read it? Okay, you haven't read it yet?
That I am.
Do you want me to bring it up on my computer so you can look at it, so you feel confident in how you want to vote?
Sure.
Okay,
Or you could just.
Or read it.
Yes.
I'll read it to you if you'd like, sure, okay, I can do that.
Memorize.
No, I haven't memorized it. Okay, let me, hang on one sec. All right, ready? Let's see how good I am at my reading skills. Okay, GSCDD owns all monuments and cul-de-sacs with landscaping that physically reside within the HOA. Some HOAs have taken some ownership in the landscaping, maintenance, and aesthetics at said monuments. It has become standard practice for the HOAs to determine whether the landscaping should be refreshed at the monument roundabouts. If the HOA determines that they would like to refresh landscaping at the roundabouts or monuments, they can request funding from the PPAC. All requests need to be made in the first 2 quarters of the GSCD financial year, which is October through March. The projects need to be completed during the requested fiscal year. The HOA president or a representative designated by them should contact the PPAC Landscaping Subcommittee to request funding for the HOA project. The PPAC Landscaping Subcommittee will determine if funding is available. Then the PPAC Landscaping Chair will assign each request to a person on the PPAC Landscaping Subcommittee or him herself. The person assigned will review the written requests and physically look at the monument's landscaping. If the landscaping is unsightly, worn, or aging out, the assigned person can approve the request. If funding is available and it is determined that a refresh is necessary, the HOA will be notified that their request is approved. Once approved, the HOA will submit a proposal plan to the PPCA Landscaping Committee for review. The Landscaping Subcommittee will notify the HOA if the landscaping design is approved or if changes need to be made. Note, it is important that plants or shrubs selected have a minimum life expectancy of 3+ years. Once the landscaping has been approved at the monument or roundabout, it will not be approved again for a minimum of 3 years, though it could be longer. The contractor choice is up to the HOA's discretion. However, the contractor must meet the qualification requirements to work with the GSCDD. When the work is completed, the contractor should send an invoice not to exceed $2,500 to the accounts payable department at the GSCDD. Any cost above $2,500 is borne by the HOA. So I'd like to go ahead and make a motion that this updated policy be approved.
This is Steve. I have a question. There was some discussion about annuals in the monuments and whether Meriscape was responsible for those. Do we need to add anything about that in this or not?
In my opinion, that is a totally separate question.
Okay.
Right? Because the annuals are replaced on a sometime basis by Meriscape.
Yeah,
And so if someone, for example, gets annuals today and they redo their entire monument and they no longer want annuals, I think that's going to be up to each individual HOA.
okay.
This,
I have one edit, so in here you reference PPCA, it needs to be PPAC.
Did I not change that? I thought I did. You're right, absolutely.
And then I strongly suggest a basic form, like a request form. That way we can track and document and scan for your 3-year time period.
Okay, I will make that edit and I will create a form and I will bring this back in January.
Roundabout, there's no mention of cul-de-sacs.
That's because I believe Bob said that cul-de-sacs were separate. Not all 3 were included in the policy. The cul-de-sacs were handled by the GSCDD, period. You don't have to ask for that. That's what he said at the last meeting.
Landscaping.
I think we're gonna need clarification from Bob, because I was very clear on that, because I had all 3 in there and I was asked to remove
Well,
one.
You are the landscape subcommittee, why do you need clarification?
Because Bob was very clear with me that that should not be included because it was separate. I mean, that's the only reason I'm saying that.
How does the committee feel on that?
I think keeping it uniform, best for everybody.
I don't disagree. I had it in there originally,
Yeah, I
but
remember
I
him
thought we had
making-
talked about it last month.
Well, when we recently, Vince Pichetto, when we recently did Prado and one by Karina, those were separate budgeted items. Mark approved more money than the 2,500,
We increased
Right.
it.
because there's no way you can do it for 2,500.
Right.
I thought that it took care of any roundabouts. $2,500 in the neighborhoods was for the monument cul-de-sac in the neighborhood.
Okay, I could be totally wrong, and I guess both Mark and I missed that. So unless I attached the wrong,
I know our neighborhood wants to change the landscaping in the cul-de-sac.
Well.
oh, you know what? The top of this does say monuments and cul-de-sacs.
Yeah, I thought you did.
So I made another error, did I not?
So you just remove the reference to roundabout and
Yeah.
or put that to cul-de-sac.
Yep.
And then maybe at the bottom of this, put a caveat or a note saying roundabouts are at the discretion of in control of the district. That way it's clear on who maintains what. This is
Thank you.
This is a very good form, or
Yeah,
very good
excellent.
policy.
Okay.
My one last comment.
Yes,
I know
please.
I've been,
No, it's fine. I appreciate it.
so talking, we mentioned this in the past about having a landscape policy and having, selected. Here's the ideal of shrubs and annuals and plants, and do we want mulch or do we want pine straw, or trying to have some sense of like, maybe here's some ideal plants or suggestions that are put. That way you don't have an HOA running rampant and putting something that's, I mean, you'll have oversight and review depending on who it's appointed to, but you may have a different opinion than me, Marty. I mean,
Recommendations are provided in the ACC doc.
maybe that's a good point to reference.
Yeah.
But they're only recommendations.
So maybe put a note in this policy. Just as a suggestion.
Right. Okay. Nancy again. I hear all of you clearly. I'm searching back into my memory, using my little computer here. I could have sworn that the last meeting we had, maybe I'm confusing this, is that Mark had asked for the template of what you all had, so we could work on from that. So if that's the case, I don't know if the template's been received.
We have a very old revitalization plan from 2008, and then we have another plan, but they are so out of date, we have to update our own plan ourselves. So that's what we're trying to do, all of this, you know, in tandem.
And that's why I sent Laura our ACC guidelines, so she could extract the landscape.
All right, I'll throw something in here that just says refer to ACC for recommended
And that might
planting
just- That
guidelines.
might just be an interim until there's a problem. Marty Manton fell again from the PPAC, so the ones that are included in the ACC document are only recommendations.
Right,
We don't hold them
yes,
to those.
yes, and that's the way I'll write it, you know. Okay, got it.
One other item, this Bruce, so this, I think, is an issue with the monuments that have been done by the HOAs. At what point, when Ameriscape goes out and puts their annuals out, will the HOA be advised? Yes, we want you to put the annuals in, or no, we don't? Because it seems it's sporadic now. I saw, for example, because I live at that end, I see Casella, for example, got the annuals put in. But I know Vince, who oversaw the design, didn't like the annuals put in. But yet in Matarita 2, they went right past it without any annuals, so it left a major bare spot there. So how are we gonna control a yes or no to Javier and Ameriscape? Which ones we want done, which ones we don't? For example, last month, we came up with certain monuments didn't want Javier touching the mulch. Okay, so we came up with a plan that we would notify gateway services with those. Are we gonna handle the planting of annuals, and how far in advance are we advised by Javier? Because as a member of the landscape committee, I knew nothing about, suddenly you see all the workers out there doing the work. And who's getting it and who isn't. we have
Individual basis.
Yeah, no, that I agree, but how are we gonna get it into a system, like we notify him way in advance, so it doesn't put him out. And at the same time, we have the chance to contact the HOAs or put it out there somehow, advising at least the presidents of each of the HOAs, regardless if they did their own or not. Do you
No,
want the annuals or don't you? Because I know for a fact, some of the annuals, you know, for example, I know,
Solero, none.
right? Where he lives,
Well, was that at the request of the HOA? Was that just because Ameriscape missed it?
no, it was their
Our
request.
decision. The
Yeah.
way I designed our Solero monuments. No need for any annuals.
But then yet, Casella, that was done by a private landscaper, was inundated with the annuals, and most of them were removed and reallocated elsewhere. Then there was other monuments that were passed over altogether. So
So
it's inconsistencies, I guess the best way to put it.
you have a year, well, more importantly, from a financing standpoint, you know, we pay for every single one of those. So if there's a miscount or removal, we're getting dinged. And so I would say in the next year, because we have one more renewal of this Ameriscape contract. And what we're doing, Scott's doing on the gateway side is we're putting together maps of exactly where we want the annuals.
Oh.
And so maybe you have this time over, you know, the next couple months to determine poll each HOA, or do you want to say it's all, everybody gets it, or nobody gets it? Or we're gonna put it at the bullnose of every, you know, what does the committee want?
So it sounds like Marty Manton fell from the PPAC again. So it sounds like to me that this committee is asking for an Excel spreadsheet to be maintained and then contacting all the HOA presidents to determine what they want, put it on the Excel spreadsheet, provide it to Javier.
Wouldn't it be, Nancy here, wouldn't it be the easiest way to get this information is to get it from each president at the president's meeting?
Yeah,
At the current, what is the current state? I don't go to the president's meeting. Is there anyone in here that does?
I think Mark does.
Mark, I
Mark
know.
does? You do?
Been there.
Oh, yes.
Well-
John
Good
Grega
lord.
and Randy Bobinson pretty much have been the only two.
But from a general concept, I mean, how does the committee feel? Do you want to leave it up to the individual HOAs or do you want to have a uniformity, either with or without?
I think we have to leave it to the
Yeah.
individual HOAs at this point because we can't, I don't think it'll be right to force the ones that have said, no, we're taking care of it ourselves and doing something else, to force them now to have annuals they don't want, or to take them away from the people that do.
And if they are planted and they're discarded, it's a waste of money.
Right?
So I think it'd be best, each HOA has their,
So we really need to know then by the next time Javier puts annuals in.
right,
Yeah.
So we're talking, what, a month or two?
Usually April, right before Easter.
okay, so,
And there'll be a president's meeting next month, I'm sure. Is there any way that, Cindy, you can ask?
I also have the master president's list. I could email the presidents, include Mark on it, and just say, I'm handing this over to Mark. We're trying to get an inventory of who wants annuals at their monuments.
Yeah, that'd be great.
And then they can just respond back, and whoever's compiling the data can just,
yeah, because I think it's wasteful, to be honest with you. If somebody doesn't want it, where are they gonna wind up? In the garbage? You know?
Right.
My house.
Yeah.
This is Steve again. If in fact there's several HOAs that don't want annuals, doesn't that need to be removed from Ameriscape's budget?
Right, that's my point.
That's the end result. We've got one more renewal, and if we need to do a contract amendment to remove X amount of annuals from the budget. We had that same experience over in Gateway recently where we removed the roundabout that's under construction. Used to have four huge beds of annuals. We had to go back to Mainscape and say, where's our credit?
Yeah.
You didn't put them in, because the contract said flat rate.
So I know, the ones that are within eyesight of my walking path. They were skipped over. There's 3 or 4 that I know off the top of my head. And I'm sure we got billed for them. Or it's in the contract.
And then what we can do is we can take that master list of each individual HOA, the locations, put that on a map and do it as a layer. And then that way, when it's time to rebid, we know exactly where we want the annuals. And maybe back to your policy, maybe that's where you make a note. Here's the current list, all requests for removal or adding of annuals or any change in annuals needs to be received by, pick a date. Probably for the budget.
Okay, so sorry, it's Nancy again. I just want to summarize to make sure I have this right. Jen is going to send out a note to all the presidents, CC Mark, and Mark will decide who's going to tally all this information. I'm going to take it upon myself, if no one else minds, over the next couple of weeks to just try to form an annual policy on top of correcting the monument and cul-de-sac policy. And bring it back in January because I will be out for a few months starting February. Okay? Everybody in agreement?
Said, I guess the only question is when you send out the thing, should it be more of the default is you'll get annuals at your monument unless you.
Yes,
unless you
right.
don't.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Otherwise, if you just say yes or no, if you don't hear back. what
Yeah,
you do,
That's
so.
a good idea.
Put a deadline. We need to hear back by, give them a month.
yeah.
Okay.
Good idea.
Okay, any other questions or comments on this? I would imagine we're going to Bruce next on the bench installation.
Yep. So first off, I want to thank Daniel for his input, even though he's not here. So I went out on my feasibility and fact-finding tour by myself at first. We were handed over the project of bench placement by the pond committee. where they felt comfortable putting them. There were 6 locations. And I got it down to 3, for several factors. ADA access, which would help minimize the cost. The traffic flow, foot traffic, more so than, vehicle traffic. And some of the placements I felt were people's backyards, and I certainly wouldn't want a bench looking in my windows. When I saw it, I went about a week later. I asked Daniel if he could meet me and give me his opinions, and he came up with even more ideas that I wasn't even aware of. If we put a bench in a certain location, there might have been underground wires. If you put a bench on top of a wire, it can't be done. If it was near any kind of junction box, you had to be concerned about the utility lines underneath. So we weeded it down to 3 possibilities. And he and I have been sending pictures back and forth. First he asked me for the name of the company of the benches that exist now. So after crawling underneath the benches, we found the manufacturer's name. I don't know. I thought I'd discuss it openly with him here today. Did he contact the manufacturer? But we're trying to stay within the same design, which is roughly this, but more, less metal to it. There are benches that look just like this that are all recyclable plastics. Because one thing I did notice, there was a lot of rust and corrosion on the old benches. So keeping that in mind, I don't know where Daniel has gone with this yet. He told me, let me get back to you. I'll budget it out for you. Originally, in my proposal, I figured like 2,500 a bench. I would like to ask to increase it to 10. And that's just giving us a cushion, because based on what I shopped around, I saw the 3 benches could be 3,000 in total. The expense of bringing in a cement company to do the pad, I don't know the cost. That's what and him securing the benches, which he volunteered to do. He said, let me go out to my vendors and see what I could come up with after exchanging the photos I found, the company I found. I'm waiting on a brochure from that company, which I was going to hand off to Daniel if it helped them. But the 3 I picked were all locations that already had existing fishing areas. So I think they're very feasible because people do fish there. There was one location would have been very expensive. It was pond, I think it was pond 56 in Prado, Fontanella. He said that would have taken the whole budget. He said to make it ADA compliant, he'd have to remove landscaping, stuff I didn't even think of. Okay. Also, I was down on that location because if we placed it where we thought it would be best. People saw me walking around the pond, and they actually came out and asked me what I was doing there. And I said, I'm just trying to figure out a place to put a bench, not in my backyard, and I understood that.
Always NIMBY.
No, but I understood. And then the pond committee gave me a picture of a location on the flowway on Prado and Cypress. There was one location that both Daniel and I agreed is great, right after that turn or on the roundabout, where everybody parks their golf carts to either walk their dog or watch the sun come up in the morning. That's one spot. But the pond committee gave us a little one further down facing Casella. I wouldn't want somebody sitting there looking in my windows. I mean, that's all for all the right reasons. So the 3 we came up with that he agreed that would be very easy ADA compliant, he said, because almost every spot had the ramp already cut out in the curb line. It would, aesthetically be nice, the view would be nice. One would be, Pond 51, which is on, Prado, roughly, you know, where the crossover for the golf course is.
Mhm.
That would be one looking out at the preserve. Another one we picked was on the corner of Prado and Cypress, where the flowway is, kind of the bridge coming out of Casella. And the third one was Pond 43 on Cypress.
All the pictures are provided in the
Yeah.
packet. See,
That's the, I believe.
that's Cypress Grove and Pond 43.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's
And that's the one that, I thought would be
Flowway.
the flowway, and it's far enough away from Casella's windows. And, you know, now I think we have benches in almost every common area. I know from, you know, I often walk down to town center, especially in the morning. There's a ton of dog walkers. I've even seen people bring out, you know, beach chairs at night watching the sunset from that spot down by Prado.
So I
So-
don't mean to complicate
Connected, so
things.
I'm in. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Bob, we can hear you. Can you mute yourself, Bob?
Yes, I will.
Thank you. Not to complicate things, but I noticed on my walk in that there's some memorial benches around. This area, is that something you all have contemplated to maybe help offset some of these costs for these benches?
Or somebody puts their name on it.
Yeah, no, and one of the companies actually shows how you could actually put it in the plastic or add a plate
They
to
would-
it.
They would donate the cost of the bench. Maybe not necessarily the whole thing, maybe just the bench
Yeah.
itself and.
I know
put a
Mark
plaque.
brought that up in the
Yeah,
past.
he wasn't, but I don't think he was
He-
very,
Yeah, he said he thought it
Into
was
that.
gonna, yeah, something to the effect that he thought it would become too politicized. Yeah.
I asked because at my previous job at the beach, people seem to, connect with that, and then that's kind of like their bench and meet me at my bench and,
That's, that was my first thought several months ago. But it seemed to have been shut down a little, so I'll go with the flow on that, but
For the town center, because we're running out of spots for memorial benches. And we're doing a paver, program. I'm not sure where that's gonna be. It's gonna be a pathway somewhere right around the Brocky Center. And so you can buy a memorial paver. So then that's what we're planning on doing for.
and I think Mark's train of thought was if we did one bench, then somebody else would want a bench. Then
Right.
we had stadium seating.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah, you'd end up, and that's what's happening at the town centers. We're starting to run out.
well, so maybe to pull the string on this a little bit, identify all potential locations. Implement a program, or if you just want to put these 3 benches in and call it done, you've got the budget for it. But if you want to do a type of program, identify all the potential locations, and once you,
But they're because we're working off the pond committee, they suggested 6, I think it was, and based on what I know and what I didn't know, because Daniel educated me, the other 3 aren't really smart moves. So I think we really did pick the best 3 based on Daniel's experience, because I wasn't aware of some of the surrounding stuff that he said, well, Bruce, look down there 25 yards. We might be sitting on top of a conduit of some kind. He goes, and God forbid we hit that when we're pouring the cement. And we really shouldn't put anything on top of something like that. So Daniel really helped me. I mean, I did what was aesthetically looking, but he really did the technical end of it, and his advice was great. So I think we really have the 3. I think now every roadway in here has their bench. You won't hear the people complaining, how come it's all on Pelican, or in the park on Cypress, so no one should be complaining. So I thought that was the best choice. The only thing I'm concerned about, based on what I shopped around, I see the cost of a bench, some could be as low as 600, as high as 1,200. Originally, I asked for roughly 25 a bench, just to give me the cushion from a budget of 7,500. Can we make it 10? And And I think we won't use the 10,000.
That would, I'm sorry, Nancy, that would be inclusive of all the concrete pads and the walkways for ADA.
And Daniel said he could have his guys do the installation, so
Right.
that would cut down on that, which I really appreciated. He said, I have to bid out the cement work. He said he could probably secure the benches through a vendor. That's why we were looking for the name of the company to try to keep it consistent. I spoke to him about the rust factor. He said that's something we could look into. The benches that I saw online were like these 50-year warranties on them. So I thought might be smart, but he again is more into this stuff than I am. So I just want to have that cushion so we don't have to shiver over the money. Especially if we do have the budget. I'm not a spendthrift, but at the same time, we got to be smart about it.
Well, if anything, I think once you all have agreed on these 3 locations, I know Daniel and I talked about this, he was gonna solicit quotes. Once those locations were secured, have a concrete vendor come out, give a price, tell them, whatever the square footage we need, iron out a bench, and then come back with a full,
Right.
here's the total cost.
That's where I thought we would be today, but let's just approve the 3 spots if you're willing to do that at this time.
This is Nancy. So one question, when you come out of, let's say where the Prado Circle is, and you're heading down Prado Drive on the right-hand side, there's a huge pond right there. And I can't tell from this, is that one of the locations? Okay.
Yeah.
All right, very good.
Marty Mantonfeld from the PPAC. So is there a requirement that you call dig safe before you put in these pads?
And time to dig.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah, and it had to be ADA compliant also. And which Daniel was great about, because he said, oh, here, if we put it right here, it'll meet all standards. And so I thought, keeping that in mind, for example, the one on Fontanella, he said, we'd have to throw a walk path, that's gonna be
Yeah,
a lot of cement. And he goes, and there's that landscaping mound there. He said, because he'd have to regrade it.
That's in somebody's backyard.
Yeah,
so,
and
no.
that's my first point. I go, I'm
Right.
just showing you every picture spot.
Right.
I said, but I'm very against this. And then he said, but there's more to this than you see. And it was that big mound with the plants there, with all the plantings. He said, you have to brick this all up. Because we'd have to level that piece to make the walkway and stuff like that.
So I'm going to go ahead and make a motion to approve the 3 locations that Bruce has identified for the ponds. Just the locations for now.
Right.
Okay.
I second it.
And can I just add,
Sure.
and increase the budget from 75?
I
Or is
think,
that
I think
another
we
item?
can, I think we can wait on that.
Until we get
the
estimates?
quotes, yeah.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay. Okay, any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Okay, so what we have left is set the next meeting agenda. We talked about the things that Jennifer's going to do, the things that I'm going to do. I'm going to bring those to the next meeting. Are there other things that we want to bring to the next meeting as well?
So you're gonna just let me recap.
Yes.
You're gonna bring back the monument, and landscaping policy.
Yes?
We're gonna bring back hopefully the bench installation pricing.
Mhm.
And is there, and then you said you were gonna start to work on an annuals.
I'll do a first draft of the annual policy.
Policy.
Do you want me to go like throughout the area and identify all the areas that need sod?
Mm,
Because there's berms, there's
Yeah, I know.
cul-de-sacs, there's bare spots where trees used to be that they
One-
should draw mulch on
Some
the circle.
This is Nancy, some of the grass areas that need sod belong to PPCA and some belong to PPAC. So do you feel confident you know which is which?
I would do just the common areas.
Just the common area?
Yep.
Common area.
So that's Pelican, Cypress, and Prado drives. on
Right,
this side.
but there is grass on the burn on Prado,
Right.
in Prado, but that according to the GIS maps that I discussed with Bob, maybe I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure, belong to PPCA. So that's
This,
what we
this
have
is
to.
Bob. This is Bob. Can I get in? We do have a pretty firm description of what is ours and what is PPCA's. It has not been agreed upon by all the parties. So I
Okay.
would, we're getting close. We're getting very, very close. But we might want to just hold off on any questionable area until that is resolved.
Okay.
As Bruce has said, Pelican Reserve Boulevard is clear cut, no issues. Cypress Grove is clear cut. Prado is the only possible variable.
Okay.
Goes to that burn, I guess.
But I'll identify every area and then we just go from if it,
Once it's,
Okay, that'd be great.
okay.
And Bruce, I'll make sure you get the electronic copy of where we are today.
I
Thank
think
you.
it's
Look
Vince. I think it's Vince.
yeah.
Oh, it's Vint? Okay, great.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, so I have those 3 items for your next agenda. Is there anything else that you guys would like to add to your agenda or to discuss?
This is
I think
Bob
the
again.
trees.
This is Bob again. I got one question for the group to think about. It has come to light in our investigations that the island on Aviano does not belong, is not part of the responsibility of GSCDD. That, as far as I know right now, that is the only one. Now, it's a rather large one. And in conversations with Mark, the residents in that area are very active in wanting the thing improved. My question for consideration is, since that is about the only island that is not ours, and just from a logic point of view, because I don't have an oar in the water, I'm not sure why that was excluded, but it is excluded. And I would think, you know, it's worth a conversation. Yeah, now you're showing it. That's great. Thanks, Chelsea.
I'm gonna try to show it to him.
Yeah,
Mhm.
because it's
That's
big and it's got, you know, walkways and,
The end of
but we may want to take that. I mean, again, just from a logic point of view.
See, this says, it says owned by the Pelican Preserve Community Association. Now, it's currently in Ameriscape's contract, they're maintaining it. It's my understanding, our understanding that the community is very vocal and active in making sure that it's to par. And that I think I'm saying that lightly. So the question is do we continue to maintain that? And if we do, then we need an easement.
Before you get.
Do we not? Do we stop maintaining it and set a time and date certain, like we've done with Sienna? Or do we ask that the community association just quit claim the property over to us? So really, you've got 3 options. So I think
Right.
Bob's point is chew on it, think about it, maybe take a site visit and bring it back at your next meeting for discussion.
Yep. Because whatever the group decides, we kind of not defend it, but you know, you gotta have a logic that would say to PPCA, other than the fact it's been deeded to them. We think you should take care of it versus us.
So
Will you take it with deficiencies
would
We
we
take it as
it?
is, Marty.
Yeah.
as is?
Well, we're already maintaining it, so if there's deficiencies,
Is
we
that-
need to yell at Ameriscape.
Well, because I'm not sure that the irrigation works.
No, the irrigation doesn't work. It was all
Well, we got
on
irrigation.
And, somebody that was with you guys, worked with, it was with Keith, and he was here,
Mhm.
and they wired that
So
irrigation.
they did.
Yeah, so the valves are no longer battery operated, they're all wired in now.
Yeah.
So that was part of the deficiency, is the grass wasn't getting proper irrigation, so now we're gonna probably start seeing improvements on it.
And then one other thing, in working with Mark and Bob, the area, at Sienna, that's around the pond and then up by the wall. Is everybody familiar with that area that I'm talking about? Let me see if I can pull it up real quick. Up by Sienna, up here.
First community when you pull in.
Yes.
Yeah, it actually would make a beautiful park. Just
So,
Torba took me.
All around this, let me see if I can click this. So all around this, and then this whole pond is part of the golf course, and then this parcel here is the community association. And so We've sent a letter to Sienna. Bob's had ample meetings with the Community Association in Sienna for months. And we've sent a letter notifying them that effective March 15th, Ameriscape will be ceasing operations and maintenance of this area. We didn't say who should take it over. We just said that under our contract, we don't own property abutting any of these parcels. Unlike, down Pelican Preserve Boulevard, we own the roadway. We said that we're gonna stop maintaining this effective March 15th. So that gives them over 3 months to get their ducks in a row. Now, I will say I did receive a note back from Faye asking why easements were not being pursued like other areas in the community. I did not respond to her. Ultimately, we don't have any ownership, any properties abutting this or anywhere near this. But and I know that there's been a request of the community, hey, district, you budgeted the money to maintain this area. I think it's like $7,000 for a whole year. You've already got it budgeted, you already have the money, can you not just maintain it to the end of the fiscal? So that's an outstanding question that probably after the first of the year, and when Bob gets back, because he's been leading this project, reconvene and come to some resolution. But as of right now, the letter that was sent to Sienna and the Community Association was dated for March 15th.
Okay, and if I can just add a little to that conversation, as Chelsea so eloquently placed it, the Community Association point of view is that this is an extremely important viewing point for people entering our community. I've told both Faye and Nancy I disagree with that, because I have driven down Pelican Reserve Boulevard approaching the guard shack, and you really can't see this because there's a fence there and there's a barrier unless you're really looking. And I would invite the members of the Landscape Committee to take that same unbiased view and see what they think. Secondly, as Faye has said, since it is budgeted, don't change anything this year, and we'll address it next year. And I had originally said that I would agree with that if the Community Association and Sienna and any other interested party said that they would take it off our hands as of the next budget year. Initially, that was rebuffed. They said they wouldn't, but they wanted to just discuss it next year. I said, no, that's not going to work. If we have a decision that someone else is going to take it, then I could buy into that. We'll finish out the year. But barring a fight in September, October next year, why not have the fight now and get it resolved?
Yeah.
Again, the contract reduction is about, we got an estimate from Ameriscape, it's about a little over $7,000. And so that's what we're discussing.
Yep. And as one little further thing to just, keep it churning. I looked at the cost of I'm looking at the cost of every community in Pelican and what they're paying for their landscape providers, and the landscape means mowing, tree trimming, and mulching. And interestingly enough, the amount of money that Sienna is currently paying is like $19 a house a quarter or a month. And the average in Pelican is $70, with some paying as much as 120. So my point to the Community Association and to Sienna both was, you guys are grossly underpaying. Don't tell me that this is a major issue for you. We're talking about $7 a month a home. And I think you should be paying for your fair share, and you're currently not. Now, it's just one person's opinion, but we'll leave this to the further discussion next year, but you have a little more background and context.
All right, so the 4 items I have for your next agenda, monument cul-de-sac policy, bench installation pricing, annuals policy, and the Aviano neighborhood park discussion.
Right, and I'm sorry, this is Nancy. Hey, Bob.
Yeah.
I was gonna talk to you because I know you're asking questions about, what we're paying for landscaping, but it sounds to me what you really need from me is just how much per home per year, which
Well, I'm
I can
computing
get,
that.
I can give you that if you want.
Yeah, I'm computing, and it's all voluntary, and I'm gonna share it with the presidents. It's just,
Okay,
here is a community, we have X number of homes, here's what we pay, and then I take that number and divide it by the number of homeowners per quarter, per year, per month. I mean,
Okay.
it's just a simple calculate. There's all kind of variables in there. I mean, everybody does it a
Right.
little bit differently,
right,
but to get a general shape of the cost, that's all.
sure. Okay,
It includes everything, like landscape, I mean, irrigation, mowing.
Yep, yep.
Fertilization, pest control.
Yep.
Weeding, full gamut.
I can give a general cost per home. I'll get that to you today or tomorrow. Realizing that depending on the size of the home, of course, the cost is different, but I'll just give you a general.
Okay.
Okay, no problem.
This is Bruce. I have a question about Aviano. Explain what quick claim means. Does that mean,
It's a legal term for transferring property.
Yeah.
It's a legal document.
so it would turn over the gateway?
That's only if the community association would be interested in turning that property over to
Gotcha.
the district.
Okay,
Yeah.
thanks.
Mhm.
Okay,
It's the big one, when you first come in the gatehouse, you take a left, and the first left,
It's unbelievable.
it's almost like a little dog park.
Yeah.
okay, before we, I make a motion to adjourn, are there any other subjects that anyone wants to talk about? Okay, then I motion to adjourn our meeting today.
All right, thank you. Have a great, happy New Year.
We
Happy
need a
New Year.
second?
Steve Keller, I second.
All in
Second
favor?
motion.
Aye,
Aye. Happy New Year.
Happy New
everyone.
Year, everybody.
thank you.
See you, Bob.